A new space telescope, described as one of the greatest scientific endeavors of the 21st century, is on track to launch next month.
They assumed it was just another rock, an ice-dusted fragment drifting in from the outside void, cold, indifferent, and meaningless. Another relic was thrown into our solar system like a cosmic coin toss. But Threei Atlas refused to behave like anything we had ever seen. Its trajectory defied established laws. Its internal emissions pulsed in an unnatural rhythm. And now, as the James Webb Space Telescope focuses its unwavering gaze on this ancient traveler, it has returned images that are rewriting the rules of what we consider natural. Because beneath the object's surface, deep within its rotating mass, lies something no scientist expected to see. A pattern, not at random, not geological, but it was engineered. Repeating geometry, mathematical precision, and echoing shapes are only associated with intelligent design. Grid angles, walls, corridors, cavities are spaced at exact intervals. Webb did not simply find reflections, it discovered a structure, a city-like structure. So the question now isn't just, what is Threei Atlas? The question is, who built this, and why is it traveling directly through our solar system? Let's see what James Webb has discovered. At first, Threei Atlas was classified as a curiosity. The third known interstellar object to enter our system took an unusual but traceable path. Slight deviations were observed, but nothing to cause concern, until James Webb was directed to examine its surface in infrared. What the telescope discovered was not noise or randomness, but a recurring geometric alignment hidden beneath layers of cosmic dust. Webb captured heat signatures using its NIR, CAM, and MIRI instruments, tracing outlines that were too regular and deliberate to be random. Long and narrow corridors, right-angled intersections, enclosed cavities spaced perfectly symmetrically. Scientists initially dismissed the readings as sensor anomalies, but as more data arrived, it became clear. The structure inside Threei Atlas followed the proportions and spatial logic of urban planning. This was not erosion. This was not crystallization. It was a layout, something that had been designed and possibly even inhabited. If these dimensions were translated into a terrestrial context, we'd see what looks like a city block. Not just once, but multiple times. Almost like modules, as if whoever built this structure used a grid-based architecture that was consistent throughout the internal compartments. The implications were staggering because nothing in nature aligns itself to form perfect right angles, but intelligence does. While the shapes themselves were cause for concern, it was the thermal behavior of these internal patterns that truly triggered alarms. The core of Threei Atlas emits infrared pulses from specific zones, which perfectly align with the structural grids. This indicates that the heat is not radiating naturally. It is emitted in localized, timed bursts, similar to heat from infrastructure or even reactors. Webb's sensors detected fluctuations consistent with what we would call controlled temperature regulation. Imagine walking through an abandoned building with some rooms still warm, not decaying but active. This behavior, combined with unusual electromagnetic interference around the object, prompted engineers to propose something shocking. The internal cavities may not only be hollow, but also shielded. Some frequencies bounced off them completely, as if they were lined with a radiation-repelling material. Other frequencies entered but did not return. It was as if something inside was absorbing, storing, and possibly even interpreting them. Suddenly, the concept of a city-like structure was no longer science fiction, but engineering fact. Because there is only one reason to create temperature-regulated, signal-blocking, grid-aligned cavities inside a moving object. They must serve a purpose. If the purpose was survival, we might be looking at a fossil rather than a rock. To fully understand the anomaly of Threei Atlas's structure, researchers began comparing it to the closest man-made analogs: underground cities, nuclear bunkers, and spaceships. What they discovered was disturbing. Not only did the internal layout resemble human structures, but the proportions were similar to some of the most efficient designs ever created for long-term human survival. Some of the chambers were hexagonal, which is a shape used in aerospace engineering to maximize space and durability. Others used Fibonacci-like spacing, which is found in both nature and high-efficiency architectural layouts. One physicist from the European Space Agency proposed that the internal design of Threei Atlas represented a form of environmental compartmentalization, implying that the structure was intended to protect life or equipment from the harsh conditions of deep space. What if this was a lifeboat rather than a remnant of a civilization, a fragment of something much larger, perhaps a station, a ship, or even a colony? Was I sent into space to flee rather than explore? What does it mean that we've intercepted it now, in our time, in our part of the universe? Is it a coincidence? Is it on a fixed path? Or did it detect us long before we realized it? Because if Threei Atlas was designed to transport something or someone across the stars, its arrival is more than just an event. This is a message. For weeks, agencies have argued about what to call the structure within Threei Atlas. Some describe it as non-natural architecture. Others describe it as a thermal anomaly with geometric resonance. However, no one wants to say publicly, at least not yet, what it could be. Evidence of extraterrestrial engineering. The very term still elicits denial in mainstream circles. But with each passing hour, more data is collected, and each new scan reinforces the same idea. This object isn't completely random. Its features were arranged, aligned, and tuned. And whether it is active or dormant, it does not simply pass through our system. It is revealing itself. And as the Threei Atlas continues its silent drift, governments are scrambling to set observation priorities. Military satellites have turned their attention to it. Communication arrays are being calibrated. There has been a shift in tone behind closed doors, the kind of shift that occurs when the impossible becomes undeniable. Because if what we're seeing is a structure, a city-like machine frozen in time, this is no longer a scientific finding. This is a civilizational event. As the Webb images spread across international observatories, a strange pattern began to emerge. Not from the object itself, but from those who observe it. Some of the most prominent astrophysicists simply refused to comment. Others made vague, euphemistic statements, referring to the structure as unexpected, unprecedented, or worse, statistically unlikely. Behind those carefully chosen words was fear, not of the object, but of what accepting it would entail. To admit that we had just captured an image of city-like architecture inside an interstellar object would be to undermine centuries of scientific consensus. It would imply that intelligent, architectural, and technological life existed not only beyond Earth, but was also mobile, possibly exploratory, perhaps desperate. That life may have left behind a relic designed to withstand the death of its creators. So, rather than confronting that monumental reality, the scientific community hesitated, and in that hesitation, the truth slipped further into the shadows. Not everybody chose silence. In a stunning move for the global astronomical community, a coalition of US and European defense satellites shifted their focus to Threei Atlas. These were not standard telescopes. These were thermal imaging, radio frequency tracking, and deep space interference monitoring systems, which are typically used for spy satellites or missile defense. Why point such sensitive equipment at a comet? The answer may be in what they saw that we did not. Rumors began to circulate within these agencies that the object is not only structured, but also slowly rotating in an unnatural pattern, that some of its thermal zones blink at fixed intervals, and that gravitational perturbations indicate mass redistribution inside its core, as if machinery deep within was realigning itself. And the most chilling leak of all, a faint rhythmic pulse, not radio or heat, but gravitational, as if something inside was communicating through gravity. Suddenly, the military wasn't watching a rock, but rather a device. Webb's data was fed into a high-resolution spatial interpreter, an AI model designed to reconstruct 3D structures from multispectral scans in a confidential roundtable involving astrophysicists and AI experts. The results were shocking. The model generated a complete architectural map, including multiple levels, transit corridors, heat exchange systems, energy nodes, and what appeared to be storage chambers or containment rooms. Without preconceived notions, the AI simply followed the data. What emerged resembled a self-contained biosphere, a vessel designed to transport either organic life or hyper-advanced systems over vast distances. And here's the twist. One scientist, after analyzing the curvature and orientation of the corridors, concluded that the design would not be suitable for human physiology. The turns were too sharp and the vertical distances too short. Whatever moved inside this place was not built like us, and it may not have walked. With the discovery reaching high-level scientific and military circles, a heated debate has begun. Is Threei Atlas a graveyard, a dilapidated vessel lost in time? Or is it a deliberate message directed at intelligent life? Some argue that its precision is proof of intent, as no natural object behaves in this manner, and no dead vessel would emit controlled heat pulses or aligned gravitational echoes. If this is a message, it has terrifying implications. The builders wanted to be found. Worse, they assumed someone would discover it, and they left something inside. Others, however, warn against overconfidence, pointing out that we may not be decoding a signal. We are causing it. That by scanning, probing, and even observing it at such depth, we may be activating systems that were designed to remain dormant, similar to entering a sealed tomb that was never meant to be opened. And as Webb's observations continue, the question that haunts every agency, lab, and whispering conversation behind closed doors is no longer what it is. It's what happens after it wakes up. As data continues to come in, astrophysicists are starting to ask questions that were previously considered absurd. Who built it? Not what, but who? The structure within Threei Atlas defies natural processes, but it does not contradict reason. Every angle, chamber, and thermal vent indicates intention. Not only survival, but long-term planning. This wasn't a desperate escape pod or a crude ark thrown into space by a dying species. No, it appears precise, calculated, modular, and possibly replicable. The possibility that this object is part of a network or even a fleet has begun to spread among a small group of SETI researchers. Because if this structure is one of many, we haven't simply discovered a relic. We have stumbled upon infrastructure, galactic infrastructure, the ruins of a civilization advanced enough to disperse artifacts throughout star systems, or worse, a probe sent ahead of time to scan, observe, and report. This raises a terrifying question. Report to whom? Behind the scenes, the world's most powerful nations are not remaining silent. Leaks from space agencies, embassies, and even private contractors show that world leaders have been briefed, and what they've learned has sparked a quiet but massive mobilization. According to reports, the United States has repositioned 3 orbital platforms to monitor Threei Atlas around the clock. China has deployed an AI-powered deep space tracking system, which is typically used for anti-satellite operations. The European Space Agency has refused to release any data related to the object, including raw public logs. Why the secrecy? Because for the first time in history, governments are grappling with the possibility of a non-human megastructure passing through our system, and they are unsure what to tell the public. The fear isn't just because it's real. Fear is the result of people believing it. When the concept of intelligent life becomes undeniable, when faith systems, political hierarchies, and scientific models are forced to deal with something older, larger, and more technologically advanced, something unexpected occurred in the midst of scientific chaos and political maneuvers. Ancient civilizations are being re-examined through the lens of Threei Atlas. Historians and anthropologists have begun to notice eerie parallels between the geometric layout inside the object and long-lost mythology. Some indigenous star maps show circular cities in the sky. Ancient Sumerian texts mention chariots of the sky, with central halls surrounded by 6 vaults, a layout that is disturbingly similar to the 3D renderings of Threei Atlas. Even Egyptian scholars have noted that the thermal nodes within the object correspond to the same golden ratio used in pyramid construction. Is this a coincidence? Could ancient civilizations have encountered, documented, or even remembered similar objects in the distant past? And if so, is Threei Atlas a first-time or return visit? The final act of revelation did not occur through speculation. It arrived through motion. James Webb's ultra-sensitive instruments, calibrated to detect infinitesimal movements, discovered a subtle but undeniable change in the structure. One of the internal chambers, which was previously static, has shifted by 0.02 degrees. In cosmic terms, that is insignificant. However, in mechanical terms, that is a door moving, or a mechanism unlocking. The shift occurred during a solar flare which bombarded Threei Atlas with electromagnetic radiation. Could this ancient structure be solar reactive? Could it be programmed to only awaken near a star? One scientist likened it to a hibernation protocol, in which the object is dormant until it receives energy from a viable star system. This viable system is ours, and with that tiny movement, Threei Atlas demonstrated that it is more than just a fossil in flight. It is responsive. It may be dormant, but it has not died. When NASA, ESA, and even the private sector started coordinating Threei Atlas observations, a long-forgotten document surfaced, the UN Declaration of Principles on Activities. Following the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence, originally drafted decades ago during SETI's infancy, outlines the protocols for response in the event of undeniable evidence of intelligent non-Earth life. But here's the issue. Threei Atlas does not transmit a signal, it does not broadcast, it does not say hello. However, the discovery of artificial internal geometry, thermal regulation, and now mechanical movement forces the scientific world to reconsider what constitutes communication. A moving door, a pulse, a meaningful design. If we accept these as manifestations of intentionality, we are now in contact, not in dialogue, but in observation. That means that every subsequent action we take, every probe, signal, or attempt to scan deeper could be interpreted as a response. And in an ancient dialogue, we have no idea who is listening. Some researchers, frustrated by the limitations of physical observation, are turning to even more radical approaches. The hypothesis that Threei Atlas may not contain biological life or even machinery in the traditional sense, but rather non-localized intelligence. A type of consciousness that is not stored in brain tissue or wiring, but rather in gravitational patterns, quantum states, or even the geometry of space. Could the object be alive, not biologically, but computationally or dimensionally? Could it be a thinking entity posing as an object? One physicist described it as a passive algorithm embedded in the skin of a comet, a cosmic sleeper waiting to be decoded rather than to speak. And if that's the case, we may have simply plugged our best telescope into an alien mind without realizing which part we were touching. Reversing the path of Threei Atlas has resulted in a chilling realization. Its trajectory is not completely random. While it enters the solar system at an angle that contradicts gravitational capture, its curved course after entry brings it dangerously close to multiple key orbital zones, first passing Jupiter, then swinging close to Mars, and finally grazing Earth's orbital neighborhood before departing. It's as if the object was sampling planetary signatures, similar to a drone searching for biosignatures. One hypothesis that is gaining traction is that this is not just a visitor, but a probe designed to find planets like ours, and once discovered, relay that information. The question is, was the relay triggered when Webb scanned it? Or did Threei Atlas send its message long before we noticed? If it has already been transmitted, where? And to whom? Here's the most unsettling theory of all. A reversal of the story we told ourselves. What if Threei Atlas wasn't just a random object we happened to spot with our telescope, but rather a probe designed to detect emerging civilizations as soon as they reach a certain level of observational capability? In other words, it detected us the instant we noticed it. James Webb's powerful gaze may have served as a trigger, a cosmic handshake. The telescope transformed into a mirror, and the object blinked back. Some now believe that Threei Atlas was never intended to communicate, but rather to record, judge, and signal whether a planet's inhabitants had become detectable, active, or potentially dangerous. Not a weapon yet, but a witness, a harbinger. And if it has confirmed our presence, what happens next may be beyond our control. So, here we are, in a moment in human history that will be remembered as the point when everything changed forever. Not with a landing, a transmission, or the roar of spacecraft, but there's a silent city-like structure frozen inside a rock drifting through the stars. We did not find any ruins on Mars. We didn't hear anything from Alpha Centauri. We just looked deeper than ever before. The universe blinked back. Because Threei Atlas is more than just a rock, not just a visitor, not just an object passing through. It's a construct, a relic, a vessel, a signal, a structure that calls into question our scientific certainty and rips a hole in the cosmic isolation curtain we've been hiding behind for centuries. And maybe this wasn't an accident. Perhaps Threei Atlas did not come here by chance. Perhaps it was placed, released, or activated the moment we became able to see it. Not to contact us, not to destroy us, but only to observe us. Because maybe we were never alone. Maybe we were never unknown. Perhaps we've always been a part of a bigger story unfolding in the cold, ancient silence between the stars. And if that's true, the question isn't, what is Threei Atlas? The real question is what happens now that it realizes we're watching.